Hi everyone, how are you? So it's the third day of my personal English vlog. Today I'm gonna try to talk about the Zen and Buddhism part of my personal interest. So I think to begin with, it's a little bit about meditations. So every day when you wake up, you can do a meditation, or let's put it that way. You can do a meditation anytime, anywhere, in any position. This is kind of contrary to most people's belief that you have to sit in a very rigid position and have like a meditation mat or sit at a very specific corner. I think meditation, broadly speaking, you can break it down into two different ways of meditation. One is I call it concentration kind of meditation. So you focus on your breath, you count your breath, you think about a certain mantra, you repeat silently in your head or even repeat out loud a specific mantra. That's the first type of meditation, which I call concentration meditation. The second type of meditation I call more like awareness meditation, where you observe what's going on with your body, your ear, your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Um, what kind of sensations are you having? What kind of thoughts are you having? And you observe all of these things and just realize that you're having them. Um, be very, very aware of what's going on. So these are the two types of meditation. The concentration kind of meditation gives you the ability to focus, and then the awareness kind of meditation, according to traditional Buddhism, it gives you the ability to increase your wisdom. So, what do I mean by wisdom? Wisdom is basically, if you know traditional Buddhism very well, it's like a few basic truths. First and the most important thing is called permanence, impermanence. Impermanence translated to more of a day-to-day, easy to understand English is like everything is constantly changing, nothing remains constant forever, and there is nothing that's gonna stay the same way forever. And what that tells you is that the kind of emotions you're experiencing, the body that you have, the thoughts you're having, everything like these are constantly changing. You cannot really like hold on to anything specifically because everything is changing. And that also tells you that you kind of don't really have control over literally anything. And beyond that, first basic truth, which is impermanence, there is a second truth called, um, I can't recall the exact wording, but it basically means that the kind of concept of self, like every day we talk about I, my, we, right? These kind of terms make you think that I am a concrete entity that somehow beyond the changes that's happening in my life, beyond my body is growing, beyond my thoughts are changing, there is some sort of eternal self. In the Western world, most of the time it's called the soul, but Buddhism, especially the kind of the earliest sort of root kind of Buddhism, basically says, okay, whatever you think is yourself, whatever you think is the quote unquote self that is not changing, um, it's just going to change. So it's kind of connected to the first truth of impermanence, but it focuses more on the self concept more. So you will know that yourself is kind of made of your body, your thoughts, your mind, your like intention to do a lot of things, um, including like the way you think about things, etc., etc. So whatever you can think of, all these components are constantly changing. They don't have a fixed entity kind of thing. There's no such a thing as soul per Buddhism, basically. Um, Everything is just your body or your mind, and every component of your body and mind is constantly changing. And then there is a third truth, which is um, if you can like quiet your mind and be present and see the truth behind all these um, untrue stuff, basically, then you will get peace or like eternal peace. And a lot of people will confuse the kind of seeing the truth, um, becoming quiet your mind as, sort of kill yourself or like just mentally kill yourself, that kind of thing. And then they think of Buddhism as very, very pessimistic, very, very passive. And I think that is not a very true or very fair way of thinking about Buddhism. Buddhism, in my way of thinking, is it's really about how you look at the world, how you understand the changes that's happening in your body and in your mind. If you really think about it and really experience it, you will see that your body grows over time. Your mind, the thoughts that you're having, is constantly changing. The emotions you have, one day you're happy, another day you're sad, and the kind of concepts and beliefs you have also change over time. When you're young, you think a toy is very important. When you grow old, you think a job is important. When you grow even older, you think, oh, my spouse is important, my kids are important. And of course, the most important thing is typically yourself, no matter if it's your body or it's your identity or the concepts that you hold in your mind. So now we kind of covered the basics of Buddhism, and then let's kind of go back to the Zen Buddhism. So in the Zen Buddhism, it's like you also do meditation, you also try to understand all these basic truths, and you try to experience it in the process of meditation. So a major part of Buddhism is that it's not like many of the philosophical schools where the most important thing is just studying different concepts, studying logics, and figure out how to construct a reasonable argument, questioning all the arguments made by other people. So those kind of purely rational and logical things, they are important, of course, and they give you a rational and mental kind of understanding of different ideas, different concepts, and it helps you get out of the, let's say, normal society's way of thinking. You can think deeper and understand things at a different level. That's great. But Buddhism kind of points out that you need not only these logical and rational and mental training, you also need to actually experience the kind of things the philosophy is kind of arguing for. For example, typically, we first understand that things are always changing. We understand that our mind, our body, our emotions are constantly changing. But that is only a rational, conceptual understanding. And when you actually still be struck by some emotions or some events, you still hold on to these emotions, you still hold on to the experience, hold on to the concept of yourself, etc., etc. But if you actually meditate and constantly observe and be aware of these changes in your life, you will experience the truth that things are changing. Your concept of self is also changing. So in that way, you not only mentally understand it, you also experience with your body, with your awareness. And that kind of experience will change the way that your brain is wired, not just in terms of how you logically prove something, but also like the way that your body is provoked, the way that the chemicals are released in your body, right? I remember some scientific research saying that they once did an MRI on a very experienced monk from Tibet, and they basically see that his brain structure or like his brain activity is just different from typical, normal human beings, and the way that he is experiencing his like brain waves are making him happier than most people. And I think maybe if I were to summarize what I'm trying to describe here is that Buddhism try to talk about a certain way of looking at the world, which I think is closer to the actual truth compared to a lot of the philosophical schools. And I think it can help you better understand yourself, understand how your body, your mind, your concepts of self are changing. And it allows you to live in a more flexible and peaceful way. Um, it's a pretty short video. I cannot really cover everything, but I think it's good enough for anyone who's interested in the concept. Maybe one specific note is that um, the way I talk about Buddhism is definitely different from many other people who talk about Buddhism, and that doesn't mean that we are not talking about the same thing. It just means that Buddhism is just so complicated. There are many different schools within the Buddhism world anyway. So if you are interested in Buddhism, I would suggest you to try to find more books about Buddhism. I would recommend maybe some of the books from Thich Nhat Hanh. So he is like a Vietnamese monk who stayed in France for a long time. He wrote many great books, and he himself lived up to, I guess, the ideology of Buddhism, to not only practice all these good things for himself, but also spread out these ideology and help anyone he can. I really admire him, and I wish that one day I can be as impactful as him and bring about good changes in the world. Um, well, hopefully this video is part of that change that I make. So that's it. Hopefully I see you tomorrow.